It may come as a surprise to many of you, but the truth is, if you want thick, luscious locks, we may need to check out your hormones. I get asked daily, whether it's here on YouTube or over on Instagram, what products I use on my hair and what supplements do I take, whether it's biotin or something else. I do plan to make a hair care video. However, I do feel like we need to start at the beginning before we start jumping in to shampoo and conditioner. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jessica and I'm a holistic nutritionist, and here on my channel, we focus on all things mom life. So whether that's cooking or cleaning and ways that we can incorporate this natural lifestyle into our day-to-day living. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, I would love it if you consider joining our family, and you can do that by hitting the big red subscribe button. It's right here down below. I'm pretty sure it takes 2 seconds, maybe 1. Let's time it. Go ahead. All right, let's go ahead and jump in and get you some luscious locks by the end of this video. To any woman who has suffered from hormone imbalances and the many symptoms that come with them, hormones seem to control everything, right? So it will not surprise you that hormones and hair loss are 100% connected. So what's the reasoning behind this epidemic of hair loss issues? It's likely our modern lifestyle and stress, whether it's physical, mental, pregnancy, birth, overall hormonal changes. All of these things are something we're experiencing daily, which can cause a disruption in key hormones that protect our hair. So here are some of the main hormone imbalances involved in hair loss. The first one being something you most likely have heard about, and that is testosterone. So this is that main hormone involved with male pattern hair loss, and probably the one that is most targeted with medications such as Rogaine and other over-the-counter solutions. There's a particular type of testosterone that is to blame, and that's called DHT, and this type can actually cause the hair follicles to shrink involuntarily and thus have an incredibly difficult time breaking through the skin and coming to the actual epidermis. So now, what should we do for us women in particular? Hands down, one of the best ways to get rid of excess testosterone is to start eating more fiber-rich foods. Fiber by far is one of the biggest tools that we have in our arsenal. So you're gonna wanna include things like fruits, tons of vegetables, including those dark leafy greens, and whole sprouted grains, preferably gluten-free. Now let's move on to our second hormone that is behind some of the hair loss that you may be experiencing, and that is the thyroid hormone. The thyroid hormone is thought to be the master metabolism hormone and is probably the most straightforward culprit behind hair loss, especially in us women. If you were in my practice and you came to me with dry skin, brittle nails, fatigue, and hair loss, it's pretty much a tall tale sign to me that you're suffering from something like hypothyroidism. So now what do we do in that case? At this point, it would be really important to take a look at your labs and get some thyroid testing done. If you fall within the normal thyroid test, but you're still experiencing these symptoms, what I would recommend that you try to do is really amp up our thyroid boosting foods like seaweed with iodine, green vegetables, as mentioned before, iron-rich foods like nuts and seed, and a very strategic iron supplement at that point if you're still low. I do have a video on my holistic approach to growing naturally thick, healthy hair. So I will go ahead and link that for you right up here and in the cards down below. So be sure to check that out after we're done with today's video. Let's jump into our third culprit that could be really causing some of that dysfunction when it comes to hair loss, and that's actually insulin. You might be surprised to see this one on the list, but high insulin levels are one of the known causes of PCOS, which is a very, very common endocrine abnormality in us women. And it has long been known that PCOS is actually driven by chronically elevated insulin levels, which causes, of course, hair loss and other symptoms like acne and weight gain, and a whole laundry list of things like fatigue, brittle nails, those topics that we touched on earlier. And it's not just women experiencing this insulin resistance. So that's a key takeaway and something that I really want to drive home. High levels of insulin also cause, well, more fat storage and therefore estrogen production, which can dramatically trigger hair loss indirectly. Well, flat out, the best way to treat this type of hair loss is by cutting down the amount of sugar in your diet. We really want to be less than 50 grams total per day, and that's even quite generous. I prefer to see the women in my practice somewhere around 30 to 35, especially if they're experiencing extreme hair loss. Another great strategy for balancing blood sugar is, well, intermittent fasting. For example, you eat your last meal at 5 p.m. and then you eat your breakfast around 10 a.m. the next day to break your fast. Insulin is most responsive in the late morning and most resistant in the late evening. This means that by making your meals heavier in the middle of the day, it could be a really wonderful strategy for you to help keep your levels in check. Moving along to the fourth hormone, and that is estrogen. So estrogen imbalances is another very common cause of hair loss, mainly in us women. We find this over and over again during pregnancy. When estrogen levels rise and then fall, namely after something like birth, a large amount of hair falls out. If any of you, which I'm sure most of you have, experienced postpartum hair loss, this is exactly what's happening. It's also true for many women during menopause when estrogen levels are also depleting at that time. But it's not just about having more estrogen in the body to prevent hair loss, because chronic estrogen dominance can also cause hair loss as well. So in this case, what do we want to do? Well, just like testosterone, really amplifying that intake of fiber can be a wonderful way to bind to that excess estrogen and pull it out of our body. Other strategies for estrogen balance include decreasing your use of plastics and your use of parabens and phthalates and other endocrine disrupting containing products, which we all know by now these are often found in cosmetics and personal care, in addition to a lot of the over-the-counter medications. Hormone balance is a complex topic, but if you keep in mind that diet and lifestyle go a very, very long way, things start looking easier right away. In my work, I often advise women before they go out spending thousands and thousands of dollars on supplements and lab testing to change their sleep habits, increase their vegetable servings, and to get some form of movement daily. And you would be shocked that more often than not, these simple changes are able to completely reverse their hair loss and truly at the root correct any of those hormone imbalances. On top of that, there are certainly supplements like vitamin D, magnesium, zinc, and omega-3s, and hormone adaptogens like ashwagandha and rhodiola that can really help move things along as well. I also have a video on my top remedies for hormone imbalances in women, and I will link that for you right up here in the cards and again in the description box down below, so be sure to check that out after today's video. I hope this clears up some of the confusion and anxiety around hair loss, because it can be extremely stressful. At this point, I'd advise you to take a look at some of your medications and supplements that you might be taking, as some of those do have side effects of hair loss. But after you've done that and you've completely cleaned house, go through some of the steps that we've discussed. Start taking baby steps with the information that we've covered today, and I truly think you'll notice a dramatic difference in your hair loss and overall hormone levels. If you liked this video, I would love for you to give it a big thumbs up, and if you've tried any of these natural remedies and have had success with your own hormone imbalance and hair loss, I would love to hear about that in the comment section down below. And again, if you think this type of content is something you might be interested in, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. It's right over here now. That way you won't miss a single video, and I hope to see you back here next Thursday.